It is 5:05 p.m. on July 17, 2023. I'll call to order the regular school board workshop. We have a number of items to attend to under our workshop, which is just a time where we just discuss things, don't make any decisions. So we have all board members present along with Superintendent Wagner. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Workshop items, we have 6. Start with new administration introduction, Superintendent Wagner.
So we have 3 of our newest executive members and high school principal with us today that we're going to introduce to all of us and our community. And so we're just going to invite you one at a time to come up and introduce who you are, a little bit about yourself, and anything else you would like to highlight.
Take care of it.
Yeah, I think we're going to have Joshua come up first because he does have an appointment. So welcome, Joshua.
Thank you.
Hello, Josh, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Thank you, board, and just community members that are present, either watching in or in the room as well. My name is Joshua Fuchs. I am the new high school principal to Red Wing. This will be year 21 in public education for me. I'm very excited to be joining Red Wing. I was sharing with some of you this morning that it's been a joy driving down the hill into Red Wing every single day to be here. Especially been enjoying, I texted my Nikki this morning about the aspect of some of the wildlife I get to see on the way in, which is not something we get to see in the city all the time. So that's been a real joy to be here. My appointment, full transparency, is I still play baseball. So I debated on whether I changed into a button-down shirt and a tie or came in my baseball pants and attire for today. I chose the button-down tie for today. So thank you so much. Look forward to being with you. Look forward to getting to know each of you and the members of the community at large as well.
Who do you play baseball for?
Tonight I am playing for the Federal League. 35 plus Diablos is the team that I am now currently on. I play on 2 teams. I play in the 28 plus amateur baseball league as well. So
Well, good luck.
yeah, thank you.
You're making it right.
Yeah, oh, we'll be all right. Thank you.
We're happy you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. And then let's go, Ms. Allegra Schmizik, our Director of Teaching and Learning, Assistant Sue, has been with us this is week 2. So I've been able to work very closely with her, but I'm super excited for her to introduce who she is and what she's bringing to the district.
Wonderful. Well, hello everyone. I am also so happy to be here. My name is Allegra Smishek, and as Martina said, I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning and Assistant Superintendent. And I have had a long time love of Red Wing. My dad lived here in his 20s. He's a Goodhue County extension agent. So he brought us here all the time growing up to the St. James Hotel and to the Bluffs. And he drove a motorcycle, so I'd spend a lot of time on the motorcycle with him. So I really have a special place in my heart for Red Wing. So it's been great to be back here, and he's very, very jealous. Like, he wants to come to work with me every day. So that could happen. But I'm really passionate about student agency and co-creating our systems with students. My previous role was as an assistant director of innovation, design, and learning. So I love innovation and really tapping into staff strengths and what their passions are to really bring that work forward. I shared with many of you today, my #1 strength is a maximizer, which is really connected to my background in continuous improvement. So taking things that are strong and making them even stronger. So I have just loved my first couple of weeks in Red Wing. Everyone has been so welcoming, and you really have a special leadership team here. So thank you all, and I can't wait to get to know you better. I am recently resigned from my school board seat in Richfield, so I may have to live vicariously through some of you, because I will miss that work.
So what was your father's name?
Ed Smishek. Don't hold it against me. He's a
Very good. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Excited to have you.
Thank you. And then last but not least is our new Director of Finance and Operations, Lisa Wagner. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Today is my first day, so this is fun and exciting.
No pressure.
Yeah. And it's been a full day already. So I come to Red Wing with a lot of excitement because I enjoy very much working very intensely in not just finance, but the whole picture as well, and making sure that what the students and staff are needing is what we can somehow find a way to make work. And so it's really a question of how do you use your resources, right? So many years of experience working with schools, sometimes auditing, sometimes working as business manager, and in different sizes. But I spent 15 years working in a school district where operations were basically what I kind of oversaw. So had a piece of, a little bit of everything there when it came to that, if it wasn't instruction. So excited to be here. Looking forward to meeting all of you better and getting to know you, as well as serving the community. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, welcome. Excited to have you.
You could probably just stay there because or Alan and yours. Are
we ready?
If you want. Good.
Sure. LTF plans. Get my list up.
Okay. So tonight we're gonna go over the fiscal year 25 budget and approve that or talk about it. And then we'll go through our 10-year plan. And we'll share some of the things coming up on our 10-year plan with you. And then I think Lisa was gonna kind of just go over the 10-year plan actually with you if you have any questions about it. So I think first I'll start out with, if you got this paper with the FY 25, and we'll just go over that. There's only the one LTFM thing we're gonna do. There's a misprint on there. If you see crack seal and seal coat, there is not a crack seal. We've already done the crack seal throughout the district. We did that over the last 2 years. So the crack seal is done. Now we just need to do the seal coating of the parking lots. So that's on our agenda for 2025. Really the only LTFM thing that we have, other than if you see that retrofit LTFM bond is on there too. If you look at our 10-year plan then going forward, as you know, the fiscal year 24, we had to put off our tennis courts and our track projects because of not only time, but also materials were an issue. So we put them onto fiscal year 24, and they are done now. The tennis courts are complete, as well as the track. And then you can see the cobble roof and the rehabilitation of the parking lot is on there. That is currently being done now for that. So that's FY 24. I can give you an update on the roof. I've kind of got a late start. And then they've had some weather issues. So they're not probably back on track, but our main goal was to have our contractor for the parking lot to kind of start July 1st in that area. And we've had to put that off a little bit just because there's so much product in the parking lot for the roof. So we're not meshing with room. So we're put that off. We're gonna start the parking lot project hopefully next week. I don't anticipate that we will see any deadlines not met before school starts. I think we'll still be able to meet deadlines. Pretty sure on that. So then if we go down to fiscal year 25, that's where I put in the seal coating of all the parking lots. At one point, we just had Twin Bluff, but I would like to try to do them all in the one year so that that's the last part of the pavement project. They recommend the seal coat or the crack sealing and then the seal coating too. So I put that in there. I worked with Lisa today on her first day, changing this up a little bit. So we can I had the bids already, so we just I figured let's just do them all at once, try to get them in that fiscal year 25. Fiscal year 26 is the carpet replacement that we got set aside for Burnside. And that is something that will be done. We need to get that carpet changed. It's original carpet in that building. So that's on fiscal year 26. If you look at fiscal year 27, we've got the roof replacement for the arena. That is if you can look on the end there, it's a, if needed, we can push out if possible. That's not a mandatory thing that we need done. We can look at that. And if we find something else that we would need to do in that year and we can push that out, I think we can do that. So that's fiscal year 27. And then 28, fiscal year 28 is the last one I have. I didn't go out to 10, but the Twin Bluff tennis courts. We would redo them like we did the ones up here at the high school level. So we'd crack seal and then repair the lines, just like we did the ones up here. That is pushing, 28 is pushing that out quite a ways, because I know that they probably aren't, they're usable, but as the years go by, I don't know if we'll have to move them up or not to get that done. In the past, we've worked with the city to split costs with that. I don't know what that will look like now, because I think, if I'm correct, I think they have tennis courts now at Cowell. Oh, does anybody
I
know?
think there are some down there, but they're also looking at pickleball courts.
Yeah, so I don't know what the city's involvement will be when we decide to do that.
The courts get quite played during the day, quite a bit by people for pickleball. Though.
Oh, there's a lot down there during the day.
Students using them as much.
Right. Any questions on?
Question, anybody? Go ahead.
I have a question, for example, let's just take the tennis courts, for example. So, you know, when the school district uses it, and then you have, community ed that, you know, is a partner with the district, but also a partner with the city. Would that be accurate? Is that, I mean, does the city assume some of the expenses to maintain like courts or other things for community ed like the school district does, or not?
Yearly, annual maintenance costs, is that borne by us?
That's more by us, yeah.
So
From
the
the
city
city.
doesn't partner with community ed for any
No.
costs of facilities or courts or equipment, or
No.
the school district takes that up?
Questions anymore? Go ahead.
Is that because we also use the tennis courts as part of our curriculum and instruction in the building, or?
I would guess. I guess,
Community, that's our function. So
Right,
we don't have anything to do with the city, other than
right.
they pay us some money for a naturalist, and I don't know if they still do those park sitting anymore. What's that called? It's on our property too, so
Right.
we could ask them to help maintain it. But
So if the city uses, like for the River City Days tennis tournament, if they use our tennis courts for that, does that get booked and billed through community ed then? Or would it?
That it would, if they would
Yeah.
use our courts, they're
Right,
supposed
okay.
to go
So
through
they're
community ed.
If they use them, they're renting them.
And I know pickleball is supposed to be going through community ed to let them know too when they're using them, but I'm not sure if that's happening. But they should let community ed know if they're gonna be on them courts down at Twin Bluff, just to reserve them.
I got a question or two.
Okay,
You said the LTFM funding is, we know we've talked about this 30% less than it was, say, 10 years ago. What would we need to, obviously 30% is a big number, but what can we tell our legislators we would like to see? Inflation built in, an annual increase of before then inflation, you know, those things we should probably come back later and having conversations with our legislators.
Right, material costs, like you say, are going up, and, you know, we haven't gotten any other funding for years from the legislature.
Increase.
It's based upon your enrollment as well, and so when the enrollment is declining, then that will also impact negatively the revenue that is generated. At the same time, with the increases and potential delay in shipment of goods and such, things kind of end up costing more, right? So it's about finding that balance, but as to what do we need to ask for and increase in the formula for the LTFM funding.
Okay.
You know, and it's different across the state with different size districts, so we need to be pretty specific with our legislators as to what we're looking for.
Great. And then on the funding, you talk about, you know, if we have to do the roof of the arena, and then we'll go into deficit, you know. Is there any way to, more of Lisa, spread it out and say the roof costs $300,000 to replace? We don't, in 2027, we don't need to do it. Do we earmark part of that 300,000 and then carry it over so we don't go into debt? You know, that's.
Yeah, so we keep a fund balance, and you have about $1.4 million in that fund balance to start this 23 school year, and now we have the audit to do, so we'll finalize that fund balance knowing what you actually spent, right? And then with that, that just kind of keeps going from year to year. You get the revenue in, and then you spend on these projects. When there's delays in projects, sometimes that can mean that those projects are a little bit delayed. You don't have the expense in 1 year where you were expecting it, but you keep the fund balance so that you have those funds. Those are funds coming to you from taxpayers, so you need to make sure we're keeping track of those separately, and we will do so. And so it is about planning. They ask for a 10-year plan so that you can kind of have a good sense of the entire project and what the needs are across the district. But you really are looking at 24, which was approved last year, and now 25, which you're going to be approving this fall. And so 25 is the focus of this particular application that we're making to the state. However, they want to know kind of that you've got an eye on the future and that it is making some sense with regard to how that is. I'll have to review it more before we get into September and December, but that's when you'll have opportunities to tweak this too as a board if need be. But it's really about making sure that our plan is solid as a whole. And if you are finding that we are spending more than what we're bringing in, it may mean that we have to back off on projects.
Good explanation, thank you.
Could I explain a little bit more about what's in the packet too? You have two different resolutions, one of which is for Red Wing Public Schools and the other is for Goodhue County. So Goodhue County Education District. As a result of us being a member of that district, education district, then they have needs as well for LTFM. And so all of their members must have this approved by each of their boards so that they too are going to show on the levy for our taxpayers to generate that revenue for their needs as well as our own. So there are two separate resolutions for that. And then you're seeing next in your packet, two separate expenditures, one for us, one for them, okay? Our 10-year plans all have to be in the same form that the MDE puts out there, but they're out there. And then there's the revenue projections. So it's a little different for us compared to the co-op, right? Because the cooperative has to then show the allocation of all of its members after they come up with their total. So they're really focused on just the 1 year. You're still seeing a 10-year revenue projection, but I just spoke with Sarah Miller at the state just the other day about my former district, and the fact of the matter is they really are focusing in on the 25 and 26 because they know that all that is an estimate moving forward for the revenue side of things. But the format is the same for all districts, and that's what those pages are all about. We did make some adjustments, and so you have new sheets in there for your 10-year expenditures to align with what Alan had mentioned earlier. And then there is a statement of assurances that is required for every district to have that signed off, and then the list that you had already gone through. So that encompasses all the materials you have before you and gives you a little bit of a brief explanation of those.
Great, any other questions? Yes.
I had a question that probably can't be answered here tonight. When I look at just the Prairie Island Arena roof, maybe needing replacement, and I would imagine that building takes a substantial amount to keep that running, staffed, and maintained. I'd be interested to know what our district spends to operate Prairie Island Arena.
So, talking with Jackie, the business manager, she gave us a kind of a synopsis of, we run at a loss of 250,000 to 300,000 each year on the ice arena, depending on the amount of rental revenue we bring in. And then we are allowed to levy for this loss each year, so we are reimbursed for it through property taxes.
Wow.
So it's a substantial amount.
Go ahead.
Dare I ask why it runs at such a great loss?
I
Is it because
can't,
it costs a lot to maintain it, we don't rent it or use it enough, like, and if you can't answer, that's okay.
yeah, I'd have to do some research on that. You know, numbers are going back up with the association numbers, but I know numbers are down. Like this year, I don't even believe we have a Bantam team. So there's a lot of ice time cut out right there. So when you pull a Bantam team out of like that, you still have the ice and the cost to keep the ice for that year. We used to run when I was over there, we were going till 10 o'clock at night, and there's some nights now where, you know, we can be, after our high school teams go on, and a couple of associations, and we'll be done and out of there by 8:30, 9. So there is that
Right.
number loss. It kind of also reflects, you know, our student number population of how it fluctuates year to year.
I was on the Hockey Association for years prior to being on the board, and basically hockey is a very expensive sport. We're one of the only districts that owns our own arena. Usually they're city-owned or association-owned. And so there's been a lot of discussion through the years about the school district has wanted to maintain the ownership of that. There are a lot of ways that we could probably raise some more revenue for the arena. That's a discussion and a topic for a whole nother night, but, you know, Dawn Leonard could probably shed some light on that discussion as well and be really helpful in more of the history of that, as well as really talking with the treasurer and the president of the Hockey Association. They would have a good handle on that as well. So I just wanted to shed some light on that.
Yep, thank
It's
you.
always been in the red,
It has.
always.
And if we didn't own it, our hockey teams would have to pay for ice if somebody else did.
Right.
We have school Monday through Friday. Normally ice arenas aren't used that often, but you're right. It sits there, but nobody uses it because you need it for when they're after school, and then the weekends it gets quite a bit of use because of tournaments, but,
We've had our gym classes come over there during the winter, you know, and use it for broom ball and phy ed classes. Of course, we're not getting any revenue from that.
Right.
But it's being used.
And we do rent the spaces too for
Yeah.
birthday parties or, and then the figure skating club also uses it and pays for some of that ice time as well.
Correct.
good discussion down the road, good questions, so,
I do have a couple more
yes, go ahead.
questions about the LTFM. So there's a line item on here that talks about spending a lot of money for single-use bathrooms to make them gender neutral. Can you speak to that?
So, the legislation is going to be, by 2025, we have to be in compliance with gender neutral bathrooms. It's my understanding that you have to have one bathroom per floor in your building. So legislation has not come out with a code that we're gonna use yet. So they just gave us that blank item to work off of. And they also have not given us a total of what they're gonna allow us. So that number in there is just something that I put in there to start that process. Whether they give it to us whenever, you know, within 2025 or 26, because or 24 or 25, because we have to have them compliance in 25.
So we have to, our district, our money, our budget has to pay for that mandate,
Yes,
and they're not giving us any extra funds to do that.
correct.
Yes, I just wanted to make that very clear, and right now, it's,
And I just threw them numbers in there because I have no idea how much
right, how would
this,
you know?
Yeah.
It could be anywhere, I see 7,500, I mean, if we have to do it per building, per floor.
that's like
a huge
9.
expense. And
3
they're
here, we got 3 floors at Twin Bluff, so yeah, and I'm not sure if it goes into, early childhood, if we have to have something in one of them
I would
buildings.
imagine
I don't know
so.
if there was an age. So that's something I'll have to keep looking into as far as when we have to be in compliance, what they're gonna allow us and,
So an unfunded mandate, and that could be very, very expensive, and that's just one. We know there's more coming. Thank you.
Well said, yeah, that educational legislation came with a number of mandates. Some funded initially and some funded not funded, and some not funded down the road, so. We're gonna be paying for some of those mandates down the road.
For a long time, I guess.
yes.
Anything else? Yes.
One other quick question, can you speak for the GCED one at all, or, I just had a quick question, I just saw, and this might be just normal expensing, but the site projects was like 22 to 25,000 predicted every year, and I just wondered if you had an example of what some of those,
So what that is regarding is when we redid our parking lot here 2 to 3 years ago, GCED was part of that because they used part of our parking lot. So that GCED didn't have the funding to fund it right away, the 220,000 of their expense. So what we did is we put it on a 10-year plan, payback plan. So that 20 to, actually it's a 5-year agreement. And they would pay 27% a year back, which comes out to that,
so that's that site project?
that's that site projects that you're seeing.
So that's money coming to us.
Yes, from them. They just didn't have that money to forward, so we just put it out for a payment plan order.
But for them to fund it, they're letting the taxpayers through us.
Okay.
Well, they don't have, the ed district, because it's in my word, they don't have the ability to levy.
Right. All right, we have 2 resolutions in front of us. First one's for the Red Wing Public School District 256. And it's for the resolution approving school district 256, long-term facility maintenance 10-year agreement. Or 10-year plan. Is there a motion to approve?
At the meeting.
What's that?
At the meeting, we have to do that.
Oh, at the meeting. I even said it, you're right, my mistake. Just real quick question here, there's 2, I can't believe I did that.
It's all right, I appreciate you wanting to get things done.
The second one, I don't see GCED on it.
It's the one that's the,
They're both on here. I got 2 of the same.
6051 draft. It's right under ours.
Okay, okay, gotcha. All right, we'll go on. Any other questions? We'll go on. I apologize for the error. Okay, thank you. High school and Twin Bluff starting time, Superintendent Wagner.
So I'm just gonna highlight a little bit of the process of the end times. So start times were agreed upon at the last board meeting with Sunnyside and Burnside flipping. And so the conversations became the tiering of our bus system. So went back to the team to kind of ideate a different end time for both Twin Bluff and the high school. And so the best that we could actually come to would be end time for the high school at 3:45 and then Twin Bluff at 3:30. One request per the principals was that there was a 15-minute gap between the end time of Twin Bluff and the end time of the high school because of the transition of the buses. So running that through transportation and the routers, the earliest they could do was a 3:30, 3:40 with a request of 15 minutes between the principals and the two buildings and with end time of 3:45. So that's probably the best we can do right now, which isn't a perfect scenario. Understanding that we did a lot of investigating on activities at the end of the day and the impact of lost instructional time and all of those pieces. This is going to be an ongoing conversation, but for the 23-24 school year, the end times that are recommended here are probably the best we can do with our tiered busing system. So it's a little bit less, but not a lot.
Considering that, at least my assumption would be that high school students are more likely to be leaving early for activities and having after-school jobs.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why the high school couldn't let out at the 3:30 versus the 3:45 for them?
That one kind of went round and round with our leadership team too, when thinking about, most of that was anchored in getting the middle schoolers on the bus versus the high school number of students that opt in on the bus. It took a lot more time and energy to be able to get to be at Twin Bluff Middle School, getting the kids on the bus and en route, as opposed to having them end later. So that is not a perfect answer for you. That was a comfortable consensus, trying to push and sway those pieces. Although, again, moving forward, for the 24-25 school year, maybe thinking about this a little bit more deliberately and having some more conversations and community input as well. I think is important. But a lot of this anchors on having enough bus drivers as well. Because we also partner with Creekstone and other entities to be able to have the drop off. So that tiered busing is really kind of the catch-all, and then figuring out how to ensure that our kids get on the bus swiftly.
Go ahead.
And then I was gonna ask, did we confirm a start time for Twin Bluff and the high school? Because I saw the newspaper said we did, but I didn't recall doing that.
So
Same.
what I have right now as written as a start time for Twin Bluff is 8:45, but the high school is starting at 8:40. So 8:40 start time for the high school, 8:45 Twin Bluff. But we are open for discussion as well.
So the high school starts earlier and
Yeah.
ends later.
And this is the busing configuration, and because we are also working with other entities with our pickups and drop-offs, morning and afternoon. So the best we could configure it is.
And we're gonna look at, recall that the conversation was gonna look at the first half of the school year to see if these
We can fix
end times could actually be pushed
Yeah.
to ending earlier. Because Ms. Ossendorf makes an excellent point about why we couldn't switch them around because of the kids the students that may have activities that are pulled away from school, missing less time. Or getting the opportunity to get back to work or to
Our coaches.
and all that, so.
Is it possible, like, if the buses need to be at the high school at 3:45, would it be possible for school to get out at 3:30 and to have a 15-minute window? I mean, I see how that could be chaotic.
That was discussed, but the conversation was at idle time. And how do you fill that idle time? What they're trying to do is swiftly get buses in, kids loaded and out. To kind of keep that idle time from manifesting into anything else. I'm in complete agreement with, we have a significant amount of instructional time, which is another conversation about ensuring that we have robust instructional time too for our staff. Our hiccup right now is really our busing, is really figuring out how do we, with the tiered busing, the shortest amount of time. My original, just to be full disclosure, my full transparency was I was hoping to shift it to a 3:20, 3:30 or 3:20, 3:35, kind of honor that 15 minutes. But the 3:20 was absolutely impossible.
Based on the elementary times.
Elementary times and the Creekstone pickup drop-offs that are also embedded into that routing as well, so.
Do we know the percentage of high school students that take the bus in the afternoon?
Actually, a survey was just sent out. I was asked if this would be a good time. I said, I'm not sure how many high schoolers are actually checking their emails at this time. So there are many questions I said about sending home the survey to in paper format and translated format, just so that our families that are multilingual could be able to give input. So they are querying 11th and 12th graders who are opting into the bus.
I just wonder even about the other grades though too, because with so many different activities and things, and like I see, it's a very unscientific sample that I'm taking, but the buses have a lot more kids on them in the morning than in the afternoon. So if it's a smaller percentage of kids that would be in that 15-minute downtime,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're talking about the whole student body, like just milling around for 15 minutes. I don't know. Just thinking out loud, kind of.
We should double check to see if we approve the start times
Sure.
on the agenda. Did you
I think
find it?
we may have just on Sunnyside and Burnside.
Right.
So the end times is really where we focused the last couple of weeks, so we can kind of go and revisit, go back and
Go to the
revisit.
rest of the Armstead.
Well, just, I think still with this, the start times at the high school and the end times, it still is dependent upon getting those little people home and then getting back into town to pick up the big kids.
And the interim stops that other non-publics or charter schools are also capitalizing on the bus routes as well.
Right. Are we committed to having our, non-public and charter schools having elementary kids on the elementary bus and bigger kids on the secondary bus? Could all those elementary schools be moved to our high school busing time, so maybe we could, should that help?
So the meetings we've had with Creekstone, for example, they're really shortening their instructional day just to be able to fit with even what we can provide. So that would be a larger conversation because they're already cutting back to be able to just work with them and schedule that our buses are. So that would be a conversation with Terry, the routers, Creekstone executive director, and then really, what is feasible within that time as well, so. But in terms of like putting kids on a secondary bus, that's the conversation we have to bring to the table to see how would that work.
Ms. Tiff?
Is there a reason for adding the additional 5 minutes to the high school day?
Or really, at the end of the day, was, what I originally proposed was a 3:30, 3:40. But the recommendation of the high school administration was to have 15 minutes to ensure that, the other request that we did put into Terry was the actual GPS time. The average time it would take between Twin Bluff and the high school, and last year, based on the principal input, was that there tended to be a longer gap, and so they were waiting longer for the buses to.
I'm just wondering why we are starting at 8:40 and ending at 8:45, and there has to spend the 8:50 to 3:50, so that's an additional 5 minutes in the high school.
And this would be a drop-off time,
Okay,
so the instructional time, we would have to allow for that to happen.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, we'll bring this back to the regular meeting. But we should find out about the start times. It should be in one of the minutes.
Can I ask one question?
Yes,
Is our only option for busing currently with our local current busing company? Is there any competition?
I think it was brought up that there was, you could do a bidding process.
I think our contract is up after this school year, so we'll be going out for bids in the spring.
Does it go outside of Redmond?
We have to, it's the only bus company, right, in Redmond?
you can send it out, we just have to find out what busing companies around that, are interested. Most of them, Goodyear has their own buses, they own their own. Lake City uses Grissom, or did, or Kennedy down in Summer Falls. So there's some around, whether that they have the, the vehicles to provide that, I don't know.
And I'm sure they've looked at, like, I think of like Creekstone, can they use Burnside as like a transfer site with Burnside students? Or are they
I think
running
by
all
law-
their own bus?
I think by law, we have to pick them up, but they have to pay for us. They have to pay for the busing. Lisa might know that too. The
Yeah, so
Charter
I-
schools.
My experience is that you need to work with them with regard to their timing and everything, right? But at the same time, you need to provide the opportunity for transportation like you are your own grade levels, right? So if, I have worked in districts where there are transfers that occur, and I worked in districts where there's like the direct routes, right? And so that isn't always an easy conversation to find yourself moving away from direct routes to doing transfers, but it is something that can be considered because it's not unlawful to do that. It's just a question of how best can you make all that work along with the timings and such. It does take some extra time to do that transfer. So you find there's a lot more bus time for students when that's done.
Yes.
Was a transfer an option that was looked at for like having the high school students just transfer to the middle school and then bust up from there instead of having the bus, like, oh, the bus is right here, or is that? Because I feel like there was something like that at one point, but I don't remember.
That was not
Like
discussed
when my kids were, I think when my kids were in school, so it was a while ago, but.
That didn't come up in recent conversations in the last 2 weeks. I
Just
mean,
wondering
certainly
if that
could
would,
come back to the
because
table.
then if the high school could get out sooner, anyone who's gonna take the bus gets bussed off to Twin Bluff.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know. Especially if we have the wiggle room with the instruction time. I think if we didn't have the wiggle room with the instructional time, it would be a moot point, right? Like, that has to come first, I think. But if we already do have enough time in our schedule, and what we're hearing from parents and the students is that, and the coaches and the teachers, is that they want school to end earlier. I just wonder if that would work, especially if it's low ridership anyway in the afternoon, and it's not gonna be like every single bus, but maybe a couple buses worth of kids. I think that's a good idea. Just an option.
Good question.
It's a really good question. I don't think we've discussed that at all.
We can bring it back to the table too.
Especially high school kids, I think it's not a big deal to transfer. I don't, you know, kindergartner having to take multiple buses is scary. A kindergartner on one bus sometimes is chaos. But if it's a high school student, he should be able to manage that. I would think, I don't know, if it would be an option, if it would cut down on some of the extra time.
Because I think you're right. And I've said this, that a lot of the buses leaving the high school many times don't have many children on there. So if you could free up 3 buses to get up there and bring down 100 students that are riding the bus or whatever it is, 200 students, whatever, how many buses, but that's the problem. Some of the buses doing it may be coming from taking kids home out in Featherstone or, Welch area too, I don't know. But Terry would know that or others.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Well, I think the other thing that factors into that, having had older students, and some of you might know this as well, is when you fill out, you get sent a survey in the mail if your child is gonna ride. And so if your child isn't gonna ride most days because they're gonna drive, you never really wanna say no, because then you won't have the option if, let's say, somebody loses their car, their license, their ability to have the ride they thought they had in place. So I always checked that I didn't opt out, but yet at the same time, they never rode the bus. So I wonder if at that high school level, I don't know if we could phrase it differently, like in that survey, they send out that, no, we won't be riding, but what if we had to, or,
Because odds are not everybody.
because it
has
holds
to
spots for many, many kids, I think, that don't need transportation.
I agree. I've done the same thing. Well, you don't know if you're gonna have a breakdown or, as you said, someone maybe loses the privilege to drive to school for a couple weeks and, yeah.
And I think the morning is a harder time to fill, where like, I don't know, again, anecdotally, but like, my kids rode with friends after school, or went to an activity after school, or there were 1,000,005 things happening at school, or they could hang out and read a book in a lobby for 10 minutes and wait for, whatever. Or it was the getting to school and making sure you were there on time, that was the tough part. So that afternoon, I think, is pretty hit or miss for ridership. But I'd be interested if they have statistics about how many, like last year, how many people were actually, I don't know if they keep a tally like of their counts, on a given day, how many people actually got on the bus in the high school in the afternoon.
That'd be good data to collect.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know,
I think they have
especially making that
collected that data.
decision.
I think so too.
I think that data is available.
Well, let's see if we can, you can do some research on
A couple
that.
of things, because the survey is being sent out, I'm hoping that there is a clear deadline so that we can come back with actual responses from the recruiters. And then maybe dig a little bit deeper into obviously the start times, which I don't think we looked at last time, that's just my recollection, and then kind of revisiting some of these pieces, so maybe it's just kind of where we are right now with more information. We are obviously trying to be responsive to the public so that they know exactly what our start times and end times are, so turning around this pretty quickly will be important.
I think the question needs to be asked, is there a possible way to all the high school kids down earlier to middle school to get on the bus down there? Is it practical, feasible for the bus company to have some buses here at whatever time instead of driving by the middle school, they come up here to pick up kids later and then going back to the middle school?
I think if we stay, let's just hypothetically say we reverse the end times with the high school at 3:30. There's just some other calculations we have to figure out, but as it stands right now, we're pretty, like Annie probably all spin, and our instructional time is pretty robust. That allows us about 5 to 8 extra days in the event that we have an excessive winter where we max out our learning days and then have to go into snow days, so. we can do that. And then the minimum 165 days.
Well, let's bring it back to the August 7th meeting and further discussion, for some questions. Okay, anything further on that? All right, move on to Minnesota policy revisions, 2023 legislative updates.
So with the 2023 legislative updates, there were many policy renewals, so we have decided just as an agenda committee to kind of chunk out those for the first read. So these have been updated to reflect the current laws. In 2023, we do have some of these that are actually set, however, any that we want to revisit. We take a peek and have some conversations around. Also, some of these revisions are in effect immediately, so we just have to take a peek at what our current policies are stating, and if there's any input that the board wants to take. So we will be chunking these out for each of the next upcoming board meetings, just to make sure that it's just realistic to be able to go through with a keen eye to see what the updates are.
Okay, any questions? Yes.
Well, at our GCED board meeting, we specifically discussed the policy 102. And what exactly does that policy mean for practice back in a school district? And we actually set that one aside. So I'm curious to hear how you think something like this is going to, like, what does it mean for us? What do we need to provide for kids in the area of sports specifically is where we kind of got, okay, but what does this mean? Sure.
So I think Paul Hartman having a conversation with us about that, and what's happening statewide versus what's happening in the Big Nine. For that one specifically, would be critical to have been part of the conversation, but yes, it is a larger conversation
Right.
around the state too, with equal athletic opportunities.
Right, what does that mean exactly?
Yes.
Do we need a boys and girls sport in everything? Is it the same number? If there's only one person who wants to play a particular sport, can they join the opposite gendered team? You know, we've had other schools in Minnesota have had girls that do wrestling? Could we let a boy play volleyball? How does that all play out?
I don't have an answer for you today, but
Yeah.
I would encourage us to
Well,
have
and
a
budgets
conversation.
too, because it can have a big financial impact if we're adding sports, so.
Questions at all, anything? Okay. We'll be going through those based upon the changes in the legislature this year. So. Corporate credit card holders.
So there have been some revisions, obviously, with transitions and title changes. So our director of finance, obviously, will be director of finance and operations. We have kept the limit amounts exactly what they were. We were just hyper aware of director of teaching and learning / assistant soup. I know the credit card that we do have for the Tower View principal GCD will be eliminated. There is already a credit card through GCD for the Tower View principal. So those are conversations that are being had, but just to show existing credit cards as they are, I'm just making a recommendation that we're able to move forward. If any questions or wonders about the existing credit cards and the limits, that I can answer for all of you.
You'll be taking up the Tower View principal one
Yes.
this year, at the next meeting. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Summer retreat recap.
All right, so today we had the first board retreat that I think has happened in a while. So district leadership team, board members, who were all there, we had an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper in our talent themes and strengths through strength finders. And then just have an opportunity to just collaborate with one another on next generation writing. So really enjoying the executive leadership team with the board, building leadership, and just an opportunity to partner with, what's next as we're making decisions and just creating our solid infrastructure. So I felt like it went really well. There's a lot of good feedback that I had prior to the meeting and some more excitement and positivity that happened today at the barn. Minus, I forgot to order the board a really robust lunch. So note to self, note to self. Yeah, so what feedback from the rest of you? You can answer
Let's
these
go around the
questions.
room here, start with Ms. Bjornstedt. You just short little about how you felt it went, and we'll go right.
I was very excited going in, and I'm even more excited coming out. I think we have a dynamic staff and dynamic leadership, and I'm really hopeful and positive about where we're going. Our kids are darn lucky.
Ms. Buck?
It was nice. I would like maybe a little bit more fluid, not so structured. Felt like I was in school again. With all these assignments, no, they were good assignments, so, cause I got to do them, well, this other one I had to do on my own, but I had to do that on my own too, so never mind, never mind. I got to discuss the results with everybody, I guess, but. Yeah, like maybe more games, maybe some sports, maybe some, I know Per Allen goes against games with Red Wing, like competitive things, had fun.
Right, that note to self, September.
More active activities, there we go.
This was cognitively.
Yes, it was brain exercise.
Ms. Tiff?
My favorite part was being able to spend time with the leadership team and getting to know, I didn't meet either of you, but I appreciated all of us being able to be together for really the first time, for sure, since I've been on the board, and I imagine in quite a long time, so I really appreciate it.
Do you have anything more you want to say?
This is awesome.
Ms. Rowe?
Well, doing the strength assessment, strength finders, I thought it was really fascinating to hear. We went around the room and talked about all of our, the 5 top strengths that we found doing the assessment. And it was really fun to hear everybody else's assessment and where they landed and those aha moments, why people, tackle a problem from the way that they do and how diverse we all are, which is really exciting. And I'm really excited for the next steps.
Ms. Ossendahl? Thank you.
Yeah, it was personally very interesting to take the strengths finder. But yeah, hearing everybody else's was great. And then that opportunity to, even some people that I've met before, but hadn't really had a chance to just sit and have a conversation with. That was really nice. And I think it's always good when we can get to know people as individuals and, yeah, learn more about who they are and why they do what they do.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz?
Kind of going at the end, I echo what everyone else said. I thought it was just a great informal day to meet everybody and say hi, and it was fun to do the test to pull out what your strengths were and then just compare them to other people's and look at it in a different way and how you can work with somebody with their assets and join with your strengths and just come together collaboratively.
I'll just wrap it up. I thought it was very nice. Taking the test, after looking back thinking, I really like that, but it must be. And later, I was with Allegra in the last group when we did the last one where we counted off the numbers, and she made a good point about, so everybody has, what was there, probably 25 people there in the room, something like that. And nobody had, that I know, the top same 5 strengths as anybody else. So knowing what the team has, it'd be nice she said, it'd be nice to know if you have something to work on, who's really maybe good at that, or who maybe not, so maybe you don't want to ask them that and ask them for the next time. I mean, it's not a slam against them, but everybody has different strengths, as they have weaknesses. But I thought it was very good, and the downside is you really didn't spend much time getting to know, like you said, Ms. Jill, some of the newer members, or even some of the existing ones. So if we do this again, I'm hoping that we can spend more time as individual board members meeting more of the leadership team. And we really look forward to working together for the benefit of the kids, so.
I'm feeling a ropes course.
Feeling what?
No, I'm afraid of heights, thank you.
You and I are gonna be on the team for deciding how the activities go.
I think we should play
Okay.
roller derby. I can pick Bella.
With what?
Roller derby.
See, that I would probably.
And I was thinking more of, maybe we could do a musical or.
School board.
School board and music.
Hey.
Athletes out there, I am an artiste.
The community can tell we're on a good day today.
Is there anything further for the workshop? Anything? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the workshop. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Motion by Ms. Rose, second by Ms. Stoltenfelder. And we will take we'll be starting the regular meeting at 6:10. So all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, we will get back here about 6:10. Hey, Brian.
So, you said you're definitely.
July 17th. Now it's about 6:12 PM. I'll call the regular school board meeting to order. All board members are present, including Superintendent Wagner. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a meeting agenda in front of us. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's school board meeting agenda.
So,
Ms. Ossendorf got the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Schoenfelder. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our educational plan is right up there, always on the wall here, and Ms. Schoenfelder is going to read our mission statement.
The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you. Recognitions and upcoming events. Who has anything they'd like to share? Who does? Nobody? Ms. Buck, you have something?
Recognitions?
And upcoming events?
Oh, TP Teachings this week with the online Dakota project, starting with Wednesday. Then art walk that the Jermaine Collins had come in with the K-4 elementary students and read the book, Where Are We In? And then there's 800 canvases downtown Red Wing in the storefronts, which it turned out really cute. So if you haven't seen it already, go check it out. But we'll be doing a community art walk with the students to kind of show the support of a job well done before they enter. Then there's going to be open mic from 4 to 6 on Wednesday before the Thomas X concert, and then there'll be an indigenous artists selling their craft there and food, and Jermaine Collins will be there with another mini mural project idea, so. And then Thursday and Friday, the community is invited to paint the teepee down at Bay Point from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. And then Saturday is TP Teachings with Tori and the youth, which we do have a couple non-Indigenous, but part of the Dakota language students, a part of that TP Teachings. Also, their language teacher will be down there and Uncle Paul with the Buffalo Box. So.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Ms. Rhodes.
Well, I would just like to remind everybody about Community Ed and all the great classes they have, offerings this summer, and the pool, of course. I know there's been a lot of hot days, so hopefully a lot of folks in Red Wing and surrounding areas are taking advantage of our awesome pool. And I just wanted to say how it just tickled my heart today. There was a couple of things. I saw 2 students of ours running, and I saw a bunch of other people practicing tennis with the new tennis coach. And so it just warms my heart to see our students really staying active and engaged this summer. And I know there are many out there that are doing really fun things too, that I'm not seeing, but it just warmed my heart to see a bunch of our students out there today.
Else, Julie?
Sorry, if we're talking about heartwarming things, throw this out there.
Go ahead, Ms. Winston.
My granddaughter, who just finished kindergarten, last time she was at my house, she likes to make cards, and she told me she really misses her bus driver. So we made a card for the bus driver because he's so kind. So shout out to all the bus drivers, know that your people miss you in the summer. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I know, I thought, oh.
Superintendent Wagner, do you have anything?
Yeah, that's coming up on my administrator list.
Can you do it now?
Yeah, so we are launching Wagner Wednesdays. I think my first session is coming up next week where we're starting at Mandy, so we'll have different shifts. So the public is invited to join me to grab a cup of coffee, ask questions, share their thoughts and ideas, solutions for anything, just spend some time with me in the public. And so Ann Robertson and I will be putting these out on the calendar and the e-news so that you know where I'm at. And we're trying to get all local entities so that we can showcase our support for our community as well. But I'll be available Wednesdays.
I think that's a great thing, you know, meet public, invite them to come and visit with you instead of expecting them to come here.
We're trying to do all different times of the day to accommodate different schedules too, so it's not just the morning, it'll be afternoons, evenings, whatever will work, so.
Well, I also want to welcome recognition here. We have a new superintendent as of July 1st, Tina Wagner. We're very excited about having her lead our district to the future. We have a couple new members of the team, leadership team. We have Allegra Simic and Lisa Ryder present with us, and Joshua Fuchs was here earlier when they did their introduction. So a lot of great things happening here in Red Wing District. Plus we have our people that have been here for a while. Mr. Bierman's in the back room, our other principals, Ms. Grove and Mr. Pagel, Brittany Unai, and all the other, Dawn and Weathern and Ann Robertson and all the other, Alan Gaylor right here, all the other leaders that are make Red Wing the best it can be. And we're very excited for your leadership and for the team you put together.
Good year, I'm excited.
Anybody else have anything? Public comment. I have one public comment. Mr. Brian Schreiber, come on up, please. You need me to read the thing to you? Well, you get 3 minutes and you can't badmouth anybody or anything like that.
No, we'll just shoot it off the cuff, yeah.
You have 3 minutes, sir.
3
Go ahead.
minutes.
Good to
All
see
right.
you.
Well, to open my discussion, I kind of feel like Perry Mason, the defense attorney. No, I'm not an attorney, but I am here on defense. And defense of Pleasant Valley School District 25. And I think you're all familiar with previous meetings that we've had together about that, so. But what, in my 3 minutes, what I would like to do is make reference to the land for sale sheet that was sent out and just have some questions related to that. And the first one is the first part of the discussion or description. Is that exactly the same as it appeared in the legal notice in the paper? Is that wording exactly the same? Or is it different?
We don't know. I don't know.
I didn't have a chance to see it in the paper. I know it was probably published, but I missed it. I assumed it was Red Wing paper, but yeah. Well, okay, that's immaterial at this point, I guess. What I want to go through then are a couple of the concerns that I've got. It says in the second paragraph that anyone interested in the purchase of this parcel to submit a sealed bid, which I did, and which I received a comment back from the district that it was received. And my understanding is it was the only bid submitted, right? Okay. Then getting down to the last comment that says Red Wing School District deserves the right to negotiate with all interest parties and to reject all proposals. Now, the way I interpret that, negotiate or reject only what's on this paper as presented. Is that correct? Or does that mean that the district can modify as they want to beyond the sale itself? My interpretation is that you can only negotiate or reject based on the bid that I submitted. either accept it, reject it, or you can modify it if you so wish. So it's just a question I have and a concern that I have as it relates to, what's been going on at these meetings in the last, ever since March, really. Apparently, my understanding is this person did not submit a bid, right? And my only agreement at last meeting was to visit with Mr. Mr. Jackson, which at this point still has never happened. So I'm still in the dark as to what his proposal is as it relates to the purchase of that schoolhouse property and, move forward with it. The only way that I'm willing to do this, if I can buy the property and then manage it as such. I'm not willing to spend my time, my energy, or my financial commitment to that project if I don't own the land. To me, it doesn't make any sense. So I know it's a level of frustration that I have that has taken this long, and where are we going from here? I appreciate your attendance and any feedback you're welcome to, at this time, I guess, voice that.
Thank you. It's on our agenda under business item number 5.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Schreiber.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next thing we have the Red Wings sister city update, Ms. Gretchen Anderson, I believe. Hello there.
Well, I have to be very formal and begin by saying konbanwa, and that is the Japanese for good evening. You don't just say hello, you have a good morning, which is ohayo gozaimasu, and you have the afternoon, noon to 5 is the konnichiwa. That's probably a more familiar one that people have heard, and after 5 it becomes konbanwa. And I also have to say, when I walked in here, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm late. The meeting started at 5 and I got here at 10 to 6. Whew. I was looking at my phone to say, oh, I'm not late. Well, yeah, thank you for letting me come up and just give a brief update. Lisa is the one who had asked if I would just share a little bit of history of the commission's exchange. We have 2 exchanges because we have 2 sister cities. One is in Chuzhou, China, and that is a teacher exchange. Tao Peng, who is part of the Southeast State staff, was going to be here to give you his viewpoints on it, but he was up in the cities today, and so I said I would put in a point for him too. So the Chinese sister city exchange is a teacher exchange and an artist exchange, and I know some of you are familiar with that when we are able to, we send a teacher over to spend, in the old days, it was spending a whole year, and then that shortened to 6 months, and I think now it's more like a month to 2 months at the most. It's not always easy to convince a teacher that you're going to leave your position here and go overseas, and the pay piece and the school, not having that employee, that's kind of difficult. The artist exchange is a little more easy. This year we have Matt Quinn, who is going over as the artist. He will probably be a little teaching over there too. But then it's very important for us to have a Chinese teacher come over here. And that has not happened, of course, because of COVID. But in the days when a Chinese teacher came here, we made sure that person had activities in the schools, a way to connect with the children, to students, to let them know what life is like in their country. Bethany Jason is also a staff member here. She's a member of our commission, and she is also very interested and has been working towards what will happen if a Chinese teacher can come here. How will they interpret a curriculum that would work, maybe have some language lessons while that teacher is here. So very good things for everybody, for the students and for the 2 countries. My interest lies then in the sister city in Japan, which is in Ikata. It's a small, probably like Goodhue type town with a long 28-mile peninsula of about 9,000 people, all considered to be part of this village of Ikata. After I retired in 2015, I found out that the 2017 group did not have a chaperone. And so I applied and was able to go over that year. Changed my life. I'd never been to an Asian country before. Went with students who were now at that point my former students. The program is open to 8th grade through 11th grade. Each year in the fall, we get permission from some of the teachers here to come into the classroom and do a little presentation to say, look at this, wouldn't you like to also widen your horizons and see what it's like on the other side of the Pacific Ocean? In the first few years that we did those presentations, we didn't know how to get the word out very well. And if you give a student a piece of paper and it says, here, take this home, well, you know where that piece of paper went, right? Then we started to investigate and found out that a school is so important for this program because we were able to advertise the position of the chaperone and for the student program itself in that email blast that Ann Robertson does. That made a huge difference. The first year that we went to conferences and had a table out there advertising our program, we had 17 students apply. The years before, we had 3, 4, 5, and those students all were able to go. But it's nice to have more students be interested in it. The school is also very important because we have gotten our chaperones sometimes through the school. Superintendent Karsten, in those days when we were advertising, I would send him a little blurb. He would send it out to the staff. And we had Noah Finnegan, who was the former German teacher. He was going to be this past year's chaperone, but then he needed to leave. And so we have another educator. We have Alexa Williams, a lovely young woman who teaches over at Colville. So on Friday, the whole group goes, the 6 students, they have been waiting for 3 years now, of course, to go. And Alexa, we had a nice meeting last night at a restaurant. We got the last details all ironed out, had some Japanese food, and they are all so excited to go. So I just wanted to say thank you for school board's involvement in lots of ways in the lives of our students and our community. And you know that by finding out what someone from another country is like or another culture, that only strengthens the bonds and it makes our students be better citizens too. And Allie Rowe would be one of those because she was one of the candidates that went in 2018. And you may know other families whose students have gone over. And prior to my coming in at 2017, again, I'm not sure who on this board has relatives or children or something that went, but it's a great opportunity. And Nikki will be coming out to visit the Buffalo when we bring the Japanese students here. Paul has arranged the visit that we have done for the last few years. The kids they just love going out on the truck and seeing the buffalo. And hopefully we'll come to one of the Honoring Dakota workshops that is planned for during that week. So any questions? I know I shoved a lot of information at you, but mostly I think what this visit was meant to do is to make you aware of how important the school is in fostering this program and helping us do what we need to do by allowing us to come in and interrupt classes and to send messages out because it's all a good thing.
Any questions?
I will just add that it's an amazing experience. My daughter went to Ikata for 10 days and then we were host of 2 children that came back at the exchange. So we had 2 students in our house for about 10 days and what an amazing opportunity for our whole family to be involved in this experience. All of us were crying when they left. We still remain in touch with them. They're kind of extended parts of our family still to this day. So just an amazing experience. And I think it's much valued and really important for us to see involved in this program.
Thank you.
The other thing that Bethany Jason is pretty instrumental in keeping me informed. So her commission is very helpful and her background working with our multilingual
Absolutely.
students. Also, if you ever get an opportunity to walk down the showcase.
Yes,
That highlights.
she brought that up. That was her idea.
And then other artifacts on each day, so just recognize where they are in their school as well. So
Yes, and otherwise, those just sit in the closet. That's the problem. The two countries exchange gifts each year, so we have many, many beautiful things that have been given to us, but we really don't always have a place to let people know. So I'm glad that Bethany was able to come up with that idea and that space was allowed for that.
thank you so much.
Very
Yeah,
good.
thank you,
for
too.
coming in. School board reports. School board reports.
We have negotiations coming up with the custodians next Monday and the following Monday with food service. So we're excited to get going on that.
Anybody else have anything? Okay. Administrative reports.
I just have a couple.
Lorraine?
Oh,
Superintendent.
thank you, board chair, right? Couple of updates. I talked about Wagner Wednesday, but just to recap, first Wagner Wednesday will be 7:30, July 26th at Mandy's, 7:30 a.m. And then Wagner Wednesday on August 23rd will be at 3:30 p.m. And those are just the beginning. Wagner Wednesdays just to meet with the community. We are, Allegra and a couple key members from the teaching and learning team are starting to plan for our August 28th kickoff, when we invite all of our wonderful staff members, of course, professionals back, and it will be an action-packed day, so I look for some fun things to come with that, just to be excited to welcome everybody back. Also, we are in the process of updating our evaluation system for our teachers, for our professionals and principals, so we are teaming right now just to look at some rubrics. We have a brand new platform that we're uploading all our rubrics into, and it will be just kind of a reset to our teacher, principal, and support professional evaluation, so some fun things coming.
And the August 23rd one, it will be at Liberty's.
Oh, yeah,
Instead of
Liberty's.
Mandy's. So if anybody can't make it 9 days from now, the one on August 23rd at 3:30 is at Liberty's restaurant. Very good. I think that's a wonderful idea. Have any questions? Okay. Consent agenda. Anybody have anything they wish to pull? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Who said it?
Me.
Ms. Rowe, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Tiff. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say, thank you to Beth Kelly for her retirement. She's been instrumental, in keeping all of us on our toes around here, and she will be sorely missed, and, we wish her well. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All of them are on there, different ones. Yeah, Beth's been here a long time. Went through a lot of principals, went through when she was here, so. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Business items, corporate credit card holders.
So, just an update here is changing the director of finance, credit card to director of finance and operations. Adding in the director of teaching and learning staff assistant soup, and then removing the Tarrowview principal credit card right now. The limits are status quo from last year unless there's any conversations in the documents.
Been taken off. Motion will include removal of the Tower View principal credit card since that's GCD, like you said.
Yes.
Even though it's printed on here, we're not gonna remove that. The motion will have that. Yes.
I just have a question though, it says here Director of Teaching and Learning, are you saying that you'd like that to say / assistant superintendent?
I mean, we can keep it as is, but her title is also inclusive of assistant superintendent, so. I don't know if you can fit that on a card, though.
Yes.
Do we still have a concession stand manager, or what's kind of happening with that?
I believe we
What's
do.
going through food service?
Was it going through food
At,
service?
at some point,
It
or
was.
community ed, something. I'm not sure. I mean, if we can keep it on here for now, that.
I think these are all existing as is for our credit cards. If we were going to add something in, I think that's where.
Yeah. Maybe just add that as a future topic, is to kind of just get an update on where we're at with concession stands.
Donna was doing it, right?
Yes, and then
It's-
I think it changed, yeah, we
Somebody
just need
else.
an update.
I think one other one, just to get on the radar, is possibly, through community ed, the pool is consistently coming up to community ed to use the credit card. They do not have their own credit card, to do the doing purchases. That's not on here, but that's a conversation that's in the works right now.
Okay. Well, what, any questions? Otherwise, what are the wishes of the board? We probably, it was approved at the last January meeting and last time on January 3rd. Now we have some changes to it, so we should probably reapprove it.
I will make a motion to approve the list of credit card holders as presented with the removal of town meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Motion by Ms. Stiff, second by Ms. Bjornstedt. Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The Red Wing LTFM plan, and we'll also run the GCED plan through it, since we'll make a separate motions, but you might as well do it while you're both up here. Hello there. Ms. Ryder and Mr. Gaylor.
Thank you. So LTFM is long-term facility maintenance, and it is a plan that a school district needs to have 10 years of a plan put together so that it can be something that's kind of always in sight, and then it's modified on a regular annual basis. This is reflective of what is particularly the scope of fiscal year 25, and will be the Pay 24 levy that you will be working through in September and December for final approval. So this resolution is basically to approve the long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan for Red Wing School District, and the facilities. The various components of the plan are all listed on the attachments, and you'll find that there's a revenue and an expenditure portion of it, and we'll find this coming through in the levy process as we work through that.
Mr. Gaylor, do you have anything? No. Okay. What's the board's wishes? Any questions?
I think it's important for those who haven't watched our workshop that was just prior to this meeting, for the public to know that we did go back and look at all the line items of both of these long-term facility maintenance plans. We had some questions earlier that were answered. In both maintenance plans, I think it's important to highlight that there is a state mandated directive through the legislature that we have to make one bathroom for both sexes, right? Gender neutral on each floor of each building. And that is a mandate that we are not getting additional funding for, so that has to come out of our long-term facility maintenance. And so that's gonna eat into some of our other budget line items. So I think it's important for the public to know that that's a non-funded mandate by our legislators.
The motion to approve. There's no further questions? Moved by Ms. Bjornstedt. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Roll. This is a resolution, so we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bjornstedt?
Aye.
Ms. Buck?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Roll?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got the GCED LTFM plan that we need to approve as a member of the City County Ed District. Go ahead, Ms. Ryder.
So in this case, there's a long-term facility maintenance plan that the GCED has. And so as they take a look at their plan, they then need to have each of their members' boards approve that plan, as they don't have the authority to levy taxpayers for the funding of the long-term facility maintenance, and rather have to work through their member districts. So our portion of that amount on an annual basis is what you have in this resolution, is that this is just for our portion that would be included in our levy process as well.
Can you give us the dollar amount?
Sure. So our portion is, one moment,
Sorry.
that's okay.
I have it. Can I help you out?
Sure, please.
33,784.84.
Their total project is 100,118 for the fiscal year we're talking about, so that's our share.
Great.
And again, there's that unfunded mandate for
Mhm.
GCED in each of their buildings.
Correct.
Most of our values are related to gender.
Yes, Ms. Tipp.
I just don't want to leave this unsaid, that even though there is that unfunded mandate, we as a board, I can speak for myself, but I also think as a board, we want to provide a safe space in our building for all of our kids. So yes, it would have been nice for us to get additional funding, but that does not mean that we are against providing that space for students in our building.
We'll speak for me as well. Can I add just
Yes,
to that point
go right
very
ahead.
quickly? Alan has done a nice job. When Kevin was here as well, we did go through specifically the high school, to look at spaces that we could create as gender neutral. So, some of those things have been done in certain spaces where we could do that. And some of that was just a matter of changing signage and allowing students to know where those spaces are. But we do a better job actually to make people do that in the space. So by no means, just because it is a legislative mandate, doesn't mean that it isn't important to us to be thinking through how we provide the spaces. That is fun for our students, so I just wanted to make sure we are thinking about that. Alan is consistently working with Big Nine to look at what our other schools doing right now. Also,
Well, thank you for adding that. I'm not pointing that out as not being inclusive. I think it's important for the taxpayers to know that money that we've asked of them is being utilized for things that we weren't planning on, which will change our budget significantly moving forward. And this isn't the only unfunded mandate that will be coming down the road. There were a lot of different things that the legislative body approved. And so it's going to put some strain on our budget moving forward. And that's the only point I wanted to make.
And it's not immediate, it's a couple of years down the road that we have to follow through on it. So hopefully the legislature may go back and address some of these unfunded mandates. Let's hope. All right. We have a resolution in front of us. What's the board wishes?
I will move to approve the resolution approving school district number 6051, long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Osterendorf. Any discussion, any other questions? Roll call vote, since it's resolution, we'll start with Ms. Schoenfelder,
Aye.
Ms. Osterendorf,
Aye.
Ms. Rowe,
Aye.
Ms. Bjornstedt,
Aye.
Ms. Buck,
Aye.
Ms. Tiff,
Aye.
chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second reading of policy 516, student medication, and policy 516.5, overdose medications. Superintendent Wagner.
Yeah, so on June 20th, we did have this policy for our first read, but at that point we were on hold because of some of the legislative updates. And so now MSBA has moved forward with policy 516.5, which actually removes the student medication component piece of 516 as a recommendation and adds in the overdose medication as a recommended attachment. So we're in a second reading for that.
Okay, any questions on the policy of the second reading? Okay. We'll come back for the next meeting for the third and final reading then. Sale of land, Superintendent Wagner.
So we had Brian Schreiber speak at public comment and for public comment, and right now I'm just giving a quick update. So we have tried to connect both Prairie Island, Frankie Jackson, Mr. Schreiber on the land to connect. We did have a meeting to meet this morning, but sadly there was a death of a relative on Mr. Jackson's side, so we have had to postpone. At this point, we have heard from Mr. Schreiber on his concern with what our next steps are. And I'm also working with Mr. Jackson to determine what our next steps with Prairie Island to essentially what they're requesting is to have a ethnographic research done prior to the actual schoolhouse, what the Native American connections of the is. So that's where we're at. As a current update, for the board, for all of us here in Bowen State House. It's about as updated to date as I have in terms of all the information that was left for me. I have been in communication with Mr. Schreiber and Mr. Jackson just to connect all of us in one room and kind of talk through what next steps are and just to everybody meet each other as well.
Questions? Yes? Well, yeah.
I was just wondering, do you have a recommendation for us tonight?
I have nothing because I've been trying to use the last 2 to 3 weeks to connect with Mr. Jackson, to stay communicating with Mr. Schreiber, and then have a meeting, which we would have hoped to have last Thursday or Friday because the schedules that didn't work, and so this morning was a follow-up meeting which we had at this point.
Yes, Ms. Osborne.
Do you know what the ethnographic study would entail?
I am not certain what that is or what the timeline or the length of time it would take to actually do an ethnographic study, but that's certainly something that I could look into. I think we also talked about Mr. Schreiber being able to discuss with Mr. Jackson his intent for the land, which is to create a monument in a space that others could use as well, so.
Would that study then preclude us from selling the land?
I think at this point, the board needs to decide if that's something that you would allow the ethnographic study to be conducted and determine a timeline for that to be conducted by, so that you can move forward with a recommendation or action.
So I feel like we should, as a district, move on. I mean, do we take the sale off the table? Because I feel like we did our due diligence with the RFP. I mentioned this 3 weeks ago when we met. We did our due diligence with the RFP way back in March, and we had one sealed bid. And now we're flailing and floundering on what to do. And I understand all that, and I know that, and I understand and respect the importance of that. But I think that we owe the one bid who did everything that we asked of him, we owe it to him to move on this, whether we take the sale of the land off the table and move forward with a study, and then if we need to bring it back up to an RFP. But I feel like we keep kicking the can down the road and things keep getting pushed off. And I don't think that that's fair to the one person who has financial interest in this land.
Yes.
I don't feel comfortable moving forward with the sale until we have done the ethnographic study. And I think that I wish that we would have been more persistent in finding that information out and making that connection before we did the RFP. Did I say that? Am I using the right initials?
I think so.
Request for proposals.
And so I am sad that the Schreibers have kind of gotten caught up in this because it has nothing to do with them as far as their plans or desires for what they want to do for the land, and it's more about the work that we should have done, the due diligence that should have happened on our end. And I can't feel good about going forward until this other stuff happens. So I feel like we might have to reject the bid for that reason and not because of any concerns about plans or I just don't feel comfortable. And this is really hard for me to say because I have a connection to these people too, but I also have to do what seems like is the right in the bigger picture thing to do first before we do the next thing.
I agree. I wish we had done this work previously so that we could make a better informed decision instead of putting it off and putting it on. Because I think the plans that you have for this sound wonderful, but I just wish we had done our homework first.
I kind of feel like we have done our due diligence. We have reached out multiple times.
And I echo that same sentiment. I feel like this keeps coming back month after month after month, and there's a reason why that.
Who reached out?
Frank has reached out, Martina has reached out.
Frank reached out. Frank rushed the process. Frank didn't get this done. And I specifically told him,
Let me interject here a little bit here. Things weren't passed on to Ms. Superintendent Wagner that we expected to be done on this process. I did talk to Mr. Jackson because he called me and he's going down to look at the property. So he is interested in looking at it, getting it done. Brian Schreiber is a friend of mine. I know that. He's frustrated. I'm frustrated too, but for him, but I don't want to do anything that's not correct. I really think Mr. Jackson's intention to get this found out is something that's gonna happen sooner than later because he's been responsive. He's talked to Superintendent Wagner. And it seemed very nice of the phone, him and Noah were going to check the property one day. Why they didn't get connected, the two of them, I don't know. But if Mr. Schreiber is frustrated, which he is, if he wishes to pull out, we can't stop him on that. I think he has a good plan for the project, but I also think we need to do it correctly. And I'm willing to have Superintendent Wagner continue to try to get something together with Mr. Jackson, see if we can come to a resolution on this. If Mr. Schreiber isn't satisfied with that, I totally understand. If he wishes to step away, if he wishes to hang in there for a little while, we'll do our darndest to make sure that they connect. And we can find out what's going on with this study, what they find. So, that's me. We don't do anything, it just stays table. This has to be pulled from the table. So.
Are there any legal implications to moving forward with this or not? Like, do we have any directive that since it was posted for sale and we had a person follow the procedure to buy the land, that we have to follow through with that? Can we?
I don't know.
Do we need to reject the offer and then move forward? And if we decide down the road that it's appropriate to sell it, then we do another RFP.
Mr. Schreiber, are you willing to keep moving down the road to see if we come to a resolution, or are you frustrated enough to say that the heck with it?
Can I
Yes or no?
have the opportunity to,
Pardon me?
can I have the opportunity to question some of this? I don't understand the study. What's this all about?
let's find it. We don't know either, but we want to find out what it is. Are you willing to, wait, are you willing to continue on, or do you want to end it? It's up to you.
I think that's I think that's a respectable question that he deserves an answer to.
I don't know what that study is.
Well, I think the study is to see, because this land that we all live on doesn't just have white settler history, it has indigenous history. And so the purpose is to find out what the indigenous history is. And if this is significant, which really, in reality, all of it is significant, but we want to make sure that if something needs to be honored with our indigenous community, that we're honoring our indigenous community, I guess.
The history of this land, if you.
We're not gonna have a conversation, all this, we're gonna make
Well,
a
where am I
decision.
gonna get the answers that I'm asking? Who's gonna tell me what's going on? What about this parcel of land? 1 acre of land? What's the study about?
We don't know the answer, we'll find out, and get back, we'll give it, look, Dr. Wagner will find.
This country first, it all belonged to the railroad way back when the land was first settled. And then the railroad sold the land back to settlers.
Thank you.
Prior to that, it was Indian property.
It was stolen. It's stolen land.
Well,
Yeah,
go on.
That's the exact response. We're invisible. Invisible. We don't exist.
What does the board wish to do? We're not gonna have a debate in here over
I think
questions we don't know, answers I don't know.
My final question is, why 1 acre of land? Why this one particular acre of land is creating all of this issue? Nobody's
Yes,
told
Ms.
me.
Timm.
I think we as a school district own the land and, you know, we didn't before know even that we owned it. And now since finding that out, I think part of building the community, the trust with our Native brothers and sisters is to recognize, and it's very simple, it sounds like, well, it's just an acre land, why does it even matter? But I think it's very symbolic of the relationship that we are trying to build within the Redmond community, and particularly within our school district. You know, as Nikki mentioned, as others have mentioned, that land was native land before it was railroad land, before it was settled by white people who came here. And yes, that history is important, but it's recognizing that there's history before that. And I think what Mr. Jackson wants to do is just have that study done and see what was that about, because we do know that in that area, there was a lot that happened historically. And if we could learn more about that, perhaps that would give us all a different perspective on a lot of different things, honestly, but really our responsibility as a district. And, you know, maybe there's something else that we as a district would decide to do with the land, knowing that previous history. Maybe not. Maybe, you know, Prairie Island has no interest in it. Maybe we as a board just determine that, okay, well, that's good historical perspective. But as long as we understand that, we can leave it at that and then sell it. But I just think it's recognizing the relationships that we are building here and honoring a history that has been denied for a long time. And so, yes, it's just an acre of land, but it just represents so much more than that.
I think to also put just timelines on the space, Frankie Jackson has mentioned to me that the tribal meets is opposite to when we are meeting, and so likewise, they're also looking at their agendas and when they can come together, so there's some timelines there. I do mirror what board chair Brian said, in the fact that I was given limited information. I will be very purposeful in investigating and looking at ethnographics to get answers for you, Mr. Schreiber, and then also to get the right information in front of this board and be able to move forward. But I haven't had enough time to be able to really do a lot with very little information sadly. So that's not an excuse, but that's my promise moving forward to be able to investigate further and get the right information. And likewise work with tribal and Frankie Jackson to do what we need to do for the ethnographic research study and then what that means for educating us as a board to make the right decision.
Sounds good.
And I think it'd be really helpful to know, what the timeline of that study would be. And then if tribal council has any thoughts about what they would want to do based on the results.
Sure.
You know, if they wouldn't have an interest in like purchasing the land regardless of results, then that might change how we respond. But, you know, I think that's just kind of on the right now, and what that looks like. So that would be helpful to know.
Do we know, are those studies, is that tribal? Is that a tribal thing that they want to do that, or is that something that would be on us to do the study of the land?
That's a good question, Jim.
And what is the cost of that? I think those are all key components to the answers that we don't have. The other question I would have is, what is our legal obligation, like Rachel was asking? I mean, we've had an RFP out there and it's been closed with a sealed bid. And is there a timeline to be acting on that? Should we be dissolving that and then bring it back to the table? I mean, I don't know the answers to that. But I think we need the answer to that.
And that's one that I think I kind of hesitation, that's the one that I can get to. So there are a couple of action items, is just to understand exactly what the ethnographic study is, circle back to Mr. Jackson and tribal, to understand whose responsibility it may be for the ethnographic research study, come back to share that information, our attorney, to look at the RFP and what that might mean moving forward, if we need to rescind or not approve the bid, and then move forward from there. Those are action steps I can take.
Well, and there might be some law that says if there is some findings of an FNO study, I mean, there might be obligations that we have to do. I mean, I don't know what, so I think it's really important to know legally what the parameters are on that.
And then moving forward, I guess, I just have a question, like, is this setting precedence for if the district has land in the future that wants to be sold? You know, is this how that procedure is gonna be followed, that we reach out to the indigenous people to see if they have an interest in the land and if they want to study it before it goes to general sale? You know what I'm asking? Like,
Because we do have a lot of land in the back and we've sold it before.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case on all of it, but there's some type of history down there, like Ms. Tiff said, down in the school and on Ski Road, so that's why it came up. We tried to sell Jefferson before, and we never had ran into this,
Right.
so.
I think this isn't as loaded.
I think we're really interested, Mr. Schreiber is also interested in what the study is about. We don't really know what it's about, who pays for it, what is necessary. Timeline, we don't, wish we could have had that meeting today with Mr. Jackson, but fully understand that, you know, death of the family takes precedence, you know, family first, so. Let's, Superintendent Wagner, why don't you keep working on it, see what you come up with, and keep Mr. Schreiber in the loop.
Certainly will do that.
So do we need to table this again?
It is tabled now. It has to be brought, either way, it's gonna be brought back to the table. At some point we vote on. 23-24 Red Wing restrictive Procedures Manual.
So the restricted procedures manual has had some redline updates, so this has been shared with me through GCD and Sherry Johnson. It has been reviewed with our special ed team, and so this is just more of an update for our annual restricted procedures, which entails our seclusions, physical holds, and so on.
Okay, questions? Redline version, so
Updates.
just updated. We need to approve it tonight then?
I do think that there is a deadline coming up, so yes. I'm not sure what that is.
I don't either. Probably before the school starts.
I will make a motion to approve the restricted procedures plan as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Tips, second by Ms. Schulman. Over any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, we discussed superintendent compensation based upon Ms. Wagner, Superintendent Wagner, filling in for email that former interim superintendent Norton sent out stating he's turning over day-to-day operations pretty much to her, and that he's still around, and he stayed employed with us until June 30th. And our superintendent now did have some dealings with a number of superintendent issues. So we met as the Vice Chair Rowe and I discussed it, and we're just presenting tonight for the board to consider a number. I'll turn it over to Ms. Rowe.
So Dr. Wagner has been in kind of as an acting superintendent since May 16th. After, being an internal candidate, there were a lot of things that she was pulled into ahead of her her official employment date of July 1st, that she acted as a superintendent or worked with Mr. Norton on regarding superintendent issues. So I'd like to, just start by thinking about an additional stipend of, a one-time stipend of $3,000 for her extra time and effort in that money, in that time.
And she wasn't asking for anything.
Correct. She's not asking for anything.
Our request to her, we thought was appropriate to do. She just said she's fine with whatever, nothing or whatever. She's not asking. Am I correct? Still.
I like this idea. I think it's very appropriate. I'm just wondering where the $3,000 came from.
I just was thinking about the extra time that she has a doctorate degree, and the extra time that she's put into those extra 6 weeks. Plus, I know that she was doing more before that official date of May 16th. I know it was much longer than that.
And she's doing her teaching and learning too at the same time, so she was. So.
Completely open for up or down.
It doesn't seem like very much to me for all the work that she has done.
Did we end up paying the interim superintendent, Mr. Norton, any less based on who or anything like that?
Did we have a contract with him?
We honored this full contract.
Right.
I will make a motion to approve compensation of $3,000 for additional duties and responsibilities for Superintendent Reiner from May 16th through June 3rd.
Motion on the floor by Ms. Tiff. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Ms. Rowe. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now remember, she was not asking for it.
And you know what? The that we are, I mean, it's a small token,
It
but
It is.
it's,
She understands the financial implications.
Right.
of the district.
but I'm happy that we are initiating something like this because it is more than well deserved.
Well, we have the upcoming meetings and topics. We'll throw a few more on there as we get them from board members.
Speaking of
Yes,
land and long-term facilities maintenance, at some point, we need to talk about Jefferson again as the ongoing issue. You know, I don't want us to sell it preemptively if we decide we want to utilize the space, but I think we need to have those conversations. Definitely not before the start of the school year, but just,
sure.
I
Good
think the
point.
community also wonders what's going on.
This time we'll ask for earnest money down at some of the leaders,
Yeah.
but that's another conversation for another day. Whatever you call that, so. All right, anything else by anybody else?
Yes,
Yes, Ms.
I think I've asked to have on there previously, like to review, I'd like to review before school started, our relationships with all the outside entities we have coming in and out of our buildings, in contact with our students. I'm not even aware of all of them. What comes to mind is like Hope Coalition, Rise Up, I don't know what else there are, but what those relationships are, the contracts we have.
About August 21st at the workshop. Would that work?
That works great for me.
What's that? Oh. And I think the behavior issues in the building will be on August 7th at the workshop. That'll be something, and exit interviews for staff retention, onboarding new teachers, all that will be that's a full workshop right there on August 7th, so.
Well, are we going to ask Paul Hartman to maybe come back or come to one of our workshops and talk about policy 102 on August 7th? Will you be a part of that? Because that's when we're having a second reading. Maybe it's not a workshop, maybe it's an agenda. Right, maybe we need to make sure to include Paul in that August 7th meeting because
That sounds
policy
good.
102.
Sure. Okay. Hearing nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Schoenfeld. I'll second. You gotta speak up, so raise your hand.
Hey, it's rare for me to be quiet. We should all be appreciating that.
Good point. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. See you in 3 weeks. Oh, one last thing. 7 weeks till school starts.
Yeah.
Is this what you wanted to hear, Mr. Bierman, right? I am excited.
When you discussed that already, then I had a kid, our camp last week, she said,
I
Jeffrey,
think we
my
can,